Hey, what is up everybody? It is your boy Evan coming to you with another video, right? So continuing our coverage slightly about the riots, but we're pivoting in a different direction. So I wanted to cover the trouble in paradise going on. As dumb as Democrats can be, some of them can at least recognize that this is not a good situation for them. This is not a winning issue. The majority of the nation made a mandate. We want deportation. We want to stop this illegal immigration. And they know that they can't win on this, right? So some Democrats are pushing back, and I would love to cover that for a moment. But before we get into all that, I need you to meet me at a reciprocal tariff, right? You guys get to watch the content and I get your like and subscription. Think we could do that? No, but on seriousness, I appreciate all your guys' support. It's been amazing. We jumped from like 68 subscribers to 90. We're about to hit 100. I am overwhelmed. I am so happy. Thank you guys so much. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it.
Division among the Democrats. Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman condemning the violent anti-ICE protests in LA, posting on X, quote, "I unapologetically stand for free speech, peaceful demonstrations, and immigration, but this is not that. This is anarchy and true chaos. My party loses the moral high ground when we refuse to condemn setting cars on fire, destroying buildings, and assaulting law enforcement."
You know what's crazy about John Fetterman? Ever since he had that stroke, he's been getting smarter and smarter. I think it helped him. and I pray to God that he doesn't go through any more brain issues, but he's been on it lately. I'm not gonna lie. I'm starting to like John Fetterman. Ever since he had his little conundrum going on, he went to the hospital. He's been on it. They did some right by him.
But House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries trying to pass blame onto the Republicans.
The Department of Homeland Security, under the leadership of the so-called Secretary Kristi Noem, is a complete and total embarrassment. And so anything that they put out should be scrutinized through that lens.
Nonetheless, is that something that you would agree with?
I've made my statement on this issue.
Here to react, Fox News contributor Joe Concha. Joe, your number one job as an elected official is public safety. That's it. Every other issue is a far distant second. So why can't all Democrats, especially their so-called leader, Hakeem Jeffries, say what Fetterman said right there?
John Fetterman, again, being the voice of reason in the Democratic Party, Todd, and he'll probably have some hit pieces now written about his health, I would imagine, as a result, because the Democrats are not very happy with Mr. Fetterman right now.
Isn't that so true? Like when John Fetterman was actually going through his stroke and was having visible difficulty speaking, maintaining his conversations, and was having trouble responding to stuff. Oh, best shape of his life, man. $1 million man right there. But now that he is speaking coherently and using logic and reason, and he has shuffled a lot of his opinions, all of a sudden, you know what? That stroke was pretty bad. I don't know if he's fit to lead. It's a bunch of rubbish. It's a bunch of trash.
Oh, look, I'm glad that Hakeem Jeffries was asked that question. What these protests, these fiery but mostly peaceful riots are about, and this is getting lost here a little bit in all the media coverage, is the Trump administration attempting to deport those here illegally, very key to mention that, here illegally, who have committed murder, including of children, of rapists, of child molesters. I mean, this is an effort that almost all sane and sober Americans support, yet Democrats are imploring their fringe supporters to resist. They won't condemn the violence, the attacks on law enforcement, only President Trump and ICE. Meanwhile, the media, Dana Bash on CNN saying these aren't, quote, real riots, unquote. Well, look at your television screens over the last 5 days. Chris Murphy, senator of Connecticut, goes on MSNBC and is telling people to take to the streets in other cities. Therefore, more riots across the country. 2020 all over again. Kamala Harris saying that it has been overwhelmingly peaceful in Los Angeles. My goodness gracious. If you live in California, why would you ever stay in that state, given the way that it is run because Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass are in charge?
I hear what you're saying. And I hear what a lot of you guys are saying, right? I have not ruled out moving out of California, but you got to understand, man. I do believe that this is a fight worth fighting. You look at San Diego. San Diego is likely to flip red. Orange County flipped red. We're making progress. California is not a homogeny as much as people would like to imagine that it is. Don't get me wrong, there are democratic strongholds, right? There are bastions of progressive and liberal ideas, especially in the Bay Area, especially in SoCal. But California is a big state. North Cal, we don't play that. Central California, we don't play that. Orange County, which is down in SoCal, doesn't play that. You're seeing it switch up. It's not going to be fast and it's not going to be pretty. It's going to be a very long and ugly and drawn out process, but we're making progress with the state. We may not see it in the next 4 years. We may not see it in the next 10 years. But I believe that sometime in my lifetime, California will be red. And it begins with the progress that we're doing now with Young Republicans, with Turning Point USA, with YAF. There's so many different great organizations that are fighting the good fight in these troubled states.
We are witnessing political suicide of the Democratic Party, to John Fetterman's point. In real time, they have lost the moral higher ground, and they can't lecture about enforcing the law and the laws in the books ever again if they are not condemning this the way they should.
Yeah, Joe, I mean, you said it. It's remarkable how similar what's taking place right now is to 5 years ago. I mean, if you played footage of last night's riot and asked somebody who didn't know when that took place, they would have said that was the Black Lives Matter riot of 2020. And during that time, Democrats continued to say that they were mostly peaceful protests. And here we go again.
Oh, boy. Here we go
to
again.
imagine that this time the National Guard were sent out to attack protesters that were exercising their constitutional obligation.
We don't take lightly to the president abusing his authority and unlawfully mobilizing California National Guard troops.
They're not criminals, and that is the outrage that you're seeing. And I think that if ICE left, I think if the National Guard left, you would see this all die down.
It would still be going down. What you're asking for them to do is not enforce the federal law. That's what you're really asking. And I covered this in my last video, or maybe the video before that. But she is being intellectually dishonest. I get it that you are a federal representative, but here, the state legislator, they neutered ICE's ability to work with the local law enforcement. So this talk of, oh, we used to deport people the right way in the past, we can't do that anymore. Local law enforcement, state agencies are not allowed to work with ICE. You could have an immigrant, an illegal alien who is in lockup for heinous crimes, and we can't even tell ICE, come pick them up. We can't even tell them the day they get out of prison. We have to just release them back out into the community. It's ridiculous, man. And as for this, oh, well, they're not criminals. Crossing into the country illegally is a crime in and of itself, full stop. Asylum has to be claimed a very specific way. You don't get to just come in. Biden did the whole catch and release thing. That's not asylum. That is a bastardization of asylum.
And we just lived through the ramifications of those remarks 5 years ago with the results of the 2024 presidential elections. So has the party learned any lessons in that time period?
Obviously not. I mean, I can't believe these sound bites that you guys are playing where Seattle, for example, because the mayor there in 2020, the one that said it was the summer of love, when you had far left rioters took over major blocks of a major NFL city in this country, including the police station. Portland police were under siege for months by so-called protesters, literally launching firebombs at the police station. If the National Guard was called in then, that would have quelled those situations a lot faster. So President Trump, learning from that, saying, all right, I'm not waiting for a governor or mayor to tell me what I have to do here. I'm going to do, to Todd's original point, I'm going to do what I can to protect American citizens and put violent criminals out of this country who entered illegally. Again, this is absolute Thelma and Louise off the cliff suicide here that we are seeing from the Democratic Party and those in the media who are cheering it on, because the pictures tell the story just like they did with Joe Biden in 2024 when we were told that he really wasn't seeing his brain turn to applesauce, and they kept calling it cheap fake videos. These are not cheap fake. That is an assault on law enforcement, and when you see rocks and concrete blocks being dropped on their cars, someone's going to get killed. unless something is done. President Trump is trying to do that.
And to that point, I just want to be very clear to contradict something that the California Attorney General, Rob Bonta, said. He said this is an illegal use of the National Guard. That is incorrect. And even the most far-left legal professor, he now runs a law school, Dean Erwin Chemerinsky, said that President Trump's use of that code section in the United States Code to call out the National Guard when the governor fails to do so is completely legal and viable. That tells you everything you need to know. This is posturing on behalf of the California AG, and he's wrong legally.
Right, yeah, and Joe, we got to let you go, but to that point, Alex Villanueva was on Brian Kilmeade's One Nation show on Sunday. He's the former LA County Sheriff, and he said that the order of events is that ICE was under attack. They appealed to LAPD and the Los Angeles County Sheriff, and they were denied backup. So then they went to the feds, and that is how the National Guard and now the Marines are in Los Angeles as well. So this lawsuit now is playing out. We'll see how that one goes in the court and also the court of public opinion in the days to come. Joe, we do have to leave it there, though. Thank you so much for joining us.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
You guys seen that? You heard that? That was originally about John Fetterman and how he's kind of splitting from the party fold to call this nonsense out. But clearly there's a lot of crazy still left in the Democratic Party. I got one more video that I wanted to pull up. And this is a slightly different direction. Rather than John Fetterman saying that this is morally wrong, this shouldn't be happening, there are some Democrats that are coming out only because, oh, well, this is going to bite us in the ass later. We have midterms coming up, people. People are going to remember this. You know, they're trying to save their own skin. They don't actually care that LA is being burned to the ground. They don't actually care that lives are being endangered. No, that doesn't matter at all. But midterms, oh, that's a different story now.
As those riots are raging on night after night in Los Angeles, Democrats have one single talking point. You heard a little bit of it from Jonathan Hunt. They are sticking to it.
We are having an administration that's targeting peaceful protests.
A lot of these peaceful protests are being generated because the President of the United States is sowing chaos.
I've not heard of anybody being shot. I've not heard of anybody being killed.
Is that the parameters for which we're setting peaceful protests? Well, no one's been shot. No one's been killed. No one yet. I think that's pretty peaceful. Who cares that several cars were set on fire? Who cares that officers are being swung at and concrete blocks are being dropped on cars as they drive? It's peaceful. Guys, this is another Saturday. Well, in LA, maybe that is just another Saturday. But to the normal people in this world, yeah, absolutely not, brother.
I've not heard of anybody being beaten, so I don't know what all this so-called violence is all about.
I'm worried about the safety of the people who are peacefully protesting.
The vast majority of protesters and demonstrators are peaceful. They're passionate.
One former Democratic strategist has this message for Dems.
I think the Democratic Party's kind of lost its mind. I think that you cannot tolerate that people are harming government property and harming federal officials executing the job that the president or the secretary of DHS or whomever has ordered them to do. Like, you just simply cannot do this.
Fox News contributor Jonathan Turley argues in a new piece, Democrats' rabid anti-ICE resistance in LA against Trump could backfire. The Wall Street Journal editorial board writes, Democrats make Stephen Miller's day. Soft-pedaling disorder in the streets helps Trump's deportation agenda. Jason Chaffetz, Fox News contributor and former Republican congressman of Utah. You know, I appreciate the drill down there from the Wall Street Journal and others to politics, but what's at stake here really is our sovereignty as a nation and all those businesses and homes caught in the fray of people committing crimes in the streets of L.A.
Yeah, most of those media pundits, they fail to talk about the victims. They fail to talk about the people that actually live there and run businesses there that have to live in fear of the violence that is happening there. You have this criminal element that is massive, that needs to be apprehended and deported. And for the Democrats to continue to say, oh, mostly peaceful, all you got to do is run this video. I mean, look at the looting that is going on here. That's somebody's actual business. This is how they make their livelihood. This is how they hire people. Do you want to go into work to that place on Saturday or Friday? This is abhorrent. And all those people waving non-American flags, you know what? If that's the country that you love, say Mexico, then go home. And guess what? There's an app for that. You can do that. That's what you should do. Go home, go back to Mexico or these other countries if that's what you love.
Yeah, CBP Home. There is an app for that. While some Democrats are downplaying the riots as mostly peaceful, which is what you're talking about, others are blaming it all on President Trump. Watch.
All of the violence and the escalation is core to the Trump administration's authoritarian playbook.
Donald Trump and the extreme MAGA Republicans are intentionally trying to inflame. They should be ashamed of themselves.
I think that if ICE left, I think if the National Guard left, you would see this all die down.
Oh, and former VP Kamala Harris has something to say, too. She says, quote, deploying the National Guard is a dangerous escalation meant to provoke chaos. It's all part of Trump administration's cruel, calculated agenda to spread panic and division, end of quote. Critics quickly hit back. Senator Tom Cotton of Arkansas saying, no surprise that the most incompetent vice president in history stands with the illegal alien rioters. A Southern California sheriff called it an embarrassment. And
so that guy's actually running for state governor. Amongst the Republicans, there's two real serious contenders. It's him and Steve Hilton. Right now, I do think that Steve Hilton is making a little bit more progress than him. However, Sheriff Bianco has the advantage of being a sheriff. He is the law and order candidate, and that's something that we need here in California. Sorry to kind of I guess, sidetrack on that, but it's something that I am tracking. I might make another video following that. My first video wasn't that great, but I was still learning kind of how to YouTube. I'm still learning how to YouTube.
Fox News contributor Guy Benson said the country really dodged a bullet in November. Jason.
Yeah, look, these are the same Democrats who deployed law enforcement to a beach to make sure you were wearing your COVID mask, for goodness sake.
Oh, my goodness.
And if they think that, if they forget that the National Guard and their highway patrol and the state police and ICE, they're the good guys. They're the ones that strap on their uniform, put the flag on their shoulder, take the risk of being deployed and being out there. They don't make that much money. We need to pay those people more. And then you got the teachers unions and others people out there saying these are the bad guys. I saw Randy Weingarten standing in the background. This isn't about teaching kids. There is a principle in the United States, Harris. It's called restitution. If you steal something, you have to pay for it. If you break a window, you have to pay for it and replace it. If you're here illegally, you got to go back to your country of origin. That's just the way it is. And if you break our laws, you got to serve that penalty and then be deported. Don't tell us that these are the bad guys. The good guys are wearing the uniforms trying to protect.
Those of you guys that might be wondering what that guy's doing, hammering down at the side of the road, he's trying to break up pieces of the sidewalk to make concrete blocks to throw at cars, to police cars and National Guard and Marine vehicles as they're coming by. That's what that is. And it is obviously still damaging city property, but it's going to be used for a much more nefarious purpose.
People against, look at what's going on there. This is, I'm so proud that Donald Trump has actually taken this, it should happen earlier. I want to see more of it. They need to clean out those streets.
Well, look, real quickly, the politics of this. Why in the world do Democrats think that this is the issue that they can win on?
I think they have relied on that money, and I think they have relied on those constituents. I do not believe that you're telling me that there aren't people here illegally that aren't voting. Because if they weren't voters, they would not be spending all this time catering to them, making sure that the money continues to flow. And I think when they're able to do what they need to do, let's look at how they get all those gas masks. Let's look at how they get all those funds. Let's look at all the background. That's what we need law enforcement, places like the FBI, to be doing.
Yeah, I mean, you were the chairman of oversight on the Hill for years. Those are the pertinent questions that should be answered right now. How are they doing it? We had the same questions when they had like merch and gear coming across the border illegally a couple of years ago. Remember that? You and I were talking about this. Who's paying for all this? All right, Jason, great to start the show with you. Thank you so much.
Hey, everyone.
Yeah, you guys seen that? You heard that? So as you can see, that it's not the entire Democratic Party as a whole, but there's pieces of them splintering off. Some of them doing the actual right thing and calling out this nonsense like John Fetterman, and then some of them that are calling it out solely to cover their own ass, right? Saying, oh, this is not a winning issue. But it's just appalling to me that we can't all get on the same page. And even if you disagree with how the deportations are being held, it should not be a argument. It shouldn't be a debate that illegal immigration is objectively wrong. Oh, I don't like how they're handling it. We can talk about that. You don't like how they're handling it? Tell California to repeal their law so that ICE can work with the local and state officials so we don't have to go into communities, so we don't have to do these messy raids. It should be much simpler. It should be that local police should be able to fulfill their duties, and if they come across illegals with dangerous histories, they could keep them in holding, call ICE, and ICE pick them up, get them out of there, rather than doing these raids. But of course, the Democratic Party, no, they can't have that, man. They need to run off of vitriol, hatred, and fear. Ooh, big spooky ICE coming to steal all the Hispanic people. That's also been one of my favorite things to read while covering this. A lot of people saying, oh, you're Mexican, you're next. Yeah, sure thing, buddy. I'm more likely to be on a ride along with ICE than to be in the back of the car. But anyways, that's my coverage of this. Some people in the Democratic Party doing the right thing, some people doing the right thing out of their own necessity, but the majority of them still perpetuating this violence. Let's go ahead and keep covering this. I'm Evan. This was the video. Thank you for watching. I'm out.